Good evening. Thank you. Not rhetorical, right? Good evening, good people. All right. It is a great honor to speak here on the territorial lands of the Anishinaabe people. I would like to thank Words Aloud, all the people who've been involved in organizing this stunning festival. I haven't performed in 3 years, spoken word. I've said yes, and then a few months before I was like, no, I don't have anything to say in this particular way. This is the longest hiatus I've ever had after performing spoken word for 20 years. But when I received that email earlier this year and read the letter of engagement and looked up Durham, Ontario, and went on the Words Aloud website, I said, yes, this is where I want to be, because there is something incredibly interesting and provocative about there being this spoken word festival in Durham, Ontario. And so I would like to start with a poem that I wrote in 1995 when I was 18 years old. The poem is called Rude Gyal Undressed. Let me tell you what a rude gyal is. So when I was 18, a rude gyal, well, it still is. It's a Jamaican term that we used in the area that I was raised in, just east of Toronto, an area called Scarborough. And in Scarborough, we would talk about the rude gyals. Now, the rude gyals were the women, the young women that we all, well, I won't speak for everybody, that I secretly wanted to be. There was a freedom to being a rude gyal because it meant that you didn't have to ascribe to all of the norms and expectations of being 18 and female and black and middle class and with, upper middle class aspirations and strict parents. And there was a way in which the rude gyals did what they wanted to do. And so I wanted to be her. This poem is called But I Dared Not. This poem is called Rude Gyal Undressed. For 18 years, I lived my life virtually unscathed, surrounded by this haze, locked in a daze, amazed. From conception like a puppet string attached, I played my part, fulfilled my role in this script called life where I was force-fed plan A, daddy's girl. Told not to give it up, let off or have my cherry bust by a nut, out to unlock my underdeveloped hips or feel up my training bra tits. Nuff said. So I was led to believe that closed legs was my virtue. But coy looks and flirting lids could never hurt you. The message was clear. Bust your ass to look fly, never look a man directly in the eye, then strips your teeth when he says, psst, as you walk by, and then give him your number said way. Anyway, unimpressed, I moved to plan B. I figured, fuck it. Niggas out there having fun, getting laid, girls getting paid with the brinks intact. Yeah, my reputation was clean, but virtue wasn't putting fat gear on this girl's back, and that's a fact. Next fact, my mother didn't raise a fool, and pristine and prude definitely wasn't cool. Those girls my granny called trifling, loose, and confused had all the fine brothers knocking on their doors in twos. I saw roots men, hip-hop boys, and those conscious brothers too, tripping up, backing ratchets, ready to fight over some ass. And it was those girls my granny said had no class. And so I had it. And so I had it, and so I flaunted it. And what I didn't have, well, I stuffed it. I walked, batsy-cocked high enough to get attention and a, hey, daughter, special mention from any man. And though their master plan was to hit the skins, my mission was to hit what lay within those two crisp sheets of leather wallet fabric. It takes cold, hard cash to support my crazy acrylic nail habits. Needless to say, eventually Plan C wore thin, and I graduated from the no-knowledge college with a degree in fine arts, the art of looking fine, doing the slow wine, feeding the sexy line to any man with money in my reach. A Plan C saw me dealing with the big-time boys. No noise, just subtle movements late at night, bringing in enough cash the next day. no PST, no GST, a little TLC, a dash of boo-oo-tea, and I was driving in his GMC the next day, much to my mother's dismay. And yes, some talk, some whisper, shake their heads with a frown. Some call me bitch, they call me hoe, say I'm skeezing around, but so life go. And until you can back your moral talk with money in this pocket, I will continue to postpone plan A and lead this here life said way. Thank you. So I caught that poem. I caught it because it was one of those ones that just started coming. And so I was writing on the backs of any piece of paper that I could find. And then I shared it with a friend of mine who was a budding hip-hop artist. Well, this was back when it was called rap. This was 1995. It was rap. And it was thought of as black music because this was before urban music came out. So this is rap music in the 90s, in and around Toronto. And I shared it with him, and he said, oh, come, we're going to do a rap show. You can come and do that poem thing. Okay. So I went, and I performed that piece, and it was amazing for me. It was amazing because it was a space where I, as an 18-year-old young black woman, could speak in front of other young black, white, Asian people. It was amazing. I could talk about the many things that were going on, and I could cuss. There was very little room for that in my upbringing. And so this was before we even heard of the term or the word spoken word. I moved to Montreal, started my undergraduate degree, and found other people who were performing on these stages. And we'd be doing all kinds of things. There was, the poet who would stand with his back to the audience and recite a poem. There were the people who would come up and take one sound and play with that sound until it all fell apart, disintegrated, and came back as something else. There were the people who were dancing. There were the people doing kind of this experimental performance art. They'd have signs, some words, some costumes, pull you out of the audience, more signs, more words, and then you're like, do I clap now? No? Now, no, right? That's what we did. And it was amazing, and it was wide, and we didn't know what to call it. It was in English, it was in French, it was in Creole, it was in Patois, it was in Spanish. We made the thing, and we kept on doing it. And in that time, what it allowed was a space for me as a young black woman to articulate what I was witnessing and where I wanted to position myself in the world. And there was a way to speak against and speak to power. And that was new. This piece is called $1. Can't handle cry freedom, Stephen Biko, or his pain. Prefer to watch kung fu flicks than see the depth of subconscious tricks instilled within the black mind, raping the innocence of every black baby it can find. The soul of democracy's hypocrisy lives on, but not by master's hand. See, the clever master plan only needed a few licks from master's stick to be embedded in the black soul for more than a lifetime. The fear to be passed along for generations along the lifeline. Nurtured in by through us, it would grow, foster. Seed planted in the womb of the house negress, an alternative fuck later promoted to mistress. Inbreeded, half-breeded, confused mulatto, she was mixed. But searching for pride, refused to mix with the field niggas in the yard. Erecting barriers of straight nose, light skin, slightly narrower hips, boasting her high yellow complexion while sucking in her thick bottom lip. Distancing herself from herself, reflected in the field niggas in the yard. Centuries later, our niggas feel up their bitches in elementary schoolyards. Enslaved by complexes of inferiority, confused by the difference between their reality and the one lived by the white minority called society. So now I hold $1 in my hand and wish that I could buy a new master plan. And then I bring my $1 to the bank and find out that in this world it's only worth 2 quarters and a dime. 60 cents calculated after the US exchange rate. But my Canadian paycheck didn't compensate for the difference. It never added a quarter, a nickel, a dime, 40 more cents so my dollar could make a cent and be a dollar. So I really hold a dollar full up of nonsense because it's really just 2 quarters and 10 cents. And then I checked the paycheck. What? Did a double check, damn. Realized after taxes, 60 cents was demoted to a dime. I need some time to figure out who benefits from this hypocritical American dreaming deflated by Canadian currency. I feel a sense of urgency. I'm physically free while mentally imprisoned, and I'm starting to lose my vision. See, I wanted to buy in, pretend like no struggle I'm in. With 2 eyes open and a third one closed, I'd lead out a happy existence. I would marry white, 2 kids, a Pathfinder, maybe a Jeep. A Johnson family nameplate on our front door to greet our neighbors. But none of them would be sisters or brothers, hell, and risk having my property value increase? No. Instead, I would choose to increase my privilege and turn my back on all the others that look like me, that looked like me. That's me. Afraid to hear the truth about my people, yet living proof of the truth of my people. Don't want to read books or see films about my people, yet leading a flick of my own with every click of the father clock that statistics show could be cut short by the click of a black brother's Glock, and still I hold this dollar in my hand. Well, in fact, it's just a dime. And I'm hoping that with it I could buy a little more time. I wanted it to make me part of society. With it, I had plans to buy more Nike. I thought behind it I could mask all my insecurities. Forget my auntie was the house negress. Forget my sister was master's mistress. Forget my mommy was the white baby's mammy. Forget my granny breastfed the same babies that went on to whip her grandbabies. Forget my father was Kunta Kinte, and then I wonder why I limp in modern day society. And I wonder why I'm holding fast to this dime and I feel like running out from under me is time. Can't handle cry freedom because life too close to home, but I bawl crying for freedom every night when I'm alone. If I could just undo history. If I could just take back centuries. Or if God had just asked me, as my spirit sat in heaven waiting to be born, with which physical traits I wanted it to take form. I could have evaluated the situation. I would have picked white so I could live right, so my dollar could be the dollar, so my dream could be society's reality, so my heaven could be right here on earth, so my children wouldn't have to struggle or fight for identity, for equality, for a right to be. Once a dollar, now a dime. On my knees, I pray to God for a little more time. Thank you. So we didn't know what to call ourselves. This Montreal scene, now we're like late 90s now. I knew what I wasn't. I had a whole bio that I had crafted and was very proud of. And I said, I am not a poet. The poetry is for old or dead white men. Spinning metaphors so deeply spun they seem weaved just beyond my reach. School taught me that poetry is boring. I was not that. And then producers started bringing in people from New York. And they were doing something similar to what I thought I was doing and other folks were doing, and they called it spoken word. I said, well, you're a spoken word, you're a spoken word artist. I said, oh, okay, yes, I'll be that spoken word, that sounds good. So we started calling ourselves spoken word artists. And the Canada Council for the Arts said there's this thing happening and people are doing this thing and we need to figure out how to fund it. And so I remember getting a package in the mail as I walked up the stairs of my apartment in Montreal into my apartment that was literally crooked. Like literally had to push the bed up against the wall by the end of the month, everything would start to that apartment. And I got a package and it said there's a grant available for the work that you do. You have to make something with it. So what do I make? I'm not a poet. And so we started making CDs. Because they captured the orality of the work that we were doing in a way that at the time I thought the page could not. So the poems I've done today so far are both on this CD. I called it Free Dome. This was the dome. It's going to be free because I made poetry. I mean spoken word. It was all very complicated. But it was exciting because there was an immediate social response. You could actually respond to what was happening. This is pre-Twitter, pre-hashtags, right? Pre-Snapchat, pre-Facebook. So there was a way in which something could be happening in the world and we could respond and get on a stage on the Saturday night and say something about it. So when Amadou Diallo, a 22-year-old black man in New York, was shot at 41 times by police officers, by 4 white police officers, as he reached for his wallet, and it was discovered that it was a case of mistaken identity. This is 1999. We watched the trial and listened intently for the news. And when news came that each one of those officers had been acquitted of Amadou Diallo's murder, we thought of Rodney King, because it felt like a familiar story. And now when I think of Amadou Diallo, I think of Eric Gardner. I think of Michael Brown. I think of Tamir Rice. I think of the many ways in which it continues to be a familiar story. The way I processed that, the results of that trial as people were in the streets protesting, was to write this poem that's called Acquitted. Bang, bang, bang! 4 cops, 1 innocent man. Shouldn't pose a problem. Bang, bang, bang! More precisely, 4 white cops, 1 black man. In this case, innocence is but a detail. Bang, bang, bang! What passes through their minds as they stop to reload? As bullets fly with controlled precision, ripping through flesh, tearing through membrane, sending systems into shock, does blood then splatter and stretch moist across shiny black boots? Bang, bang. 11 shots later, he likely no longer poses a threat to police officers. So what triggers them to keep firing? Centuries of familiarity? Ancestors' memories? The comforting knowledge of a history of acquittals won when black families sought white justice in courtrooms built on the backs of black blood, where victims are virtuously white and scapegoats systematically black? Bang, bang, bang. By now a callus must have formed to provide protection for that sensitive skin between the 2 joints of the index trigger finger. But how thick must the callus covering common sense be to permit the continuous shooting of a corpse? Bang, bang, bang. Chalk it up to experience, live target practice training. And they do practice, even on royalty. Rodney King took a beating and sang the "Can't We All Just Get Along?" nonviolent peace sit-in song, not heeding that others before he, with similar philosophies, received the same royal treatment. Martin Luther King Jr. dreamt dreams of equal splendor and was later reduced to more target practice. Bang, bang, bang. He's reaching for... Bang. Oops. Thought it was a gun. Didn't think it could be a wallet. How many black men have been murdered while reaching for their identification when their relevant ID was already written all over their skin? He appeared suspicious to men who peer suspiciously at all that is black. Bang, 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 and that's only 24 shots. How do they sound as they resonate through space, suspending time, suspending humanity? Would it be like the ringing of school bells, of church bells, of delighted wedding bells? Or like the ringing bellows of overseers, slow southern drawl of massa? the ringing sting of fresh lashes lacing taut overstretched to stress the skin, or the eerily calm ringing of a flat line. Bang, bang, bang. Sweet genocide. Bang, bang. Yoruba, turn African, turn savage, turn monkey, turn nigga, turn field nigga, turn house nigga, turn colored, turn Negro, turn PC to black, African American, Afro-Canadian, of the African diaspora, bang, 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 still a nigga, bang, 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 in the eyes of the gun-toting, white privilege system upholding, lynching, pummeling, harassing, beating, raping, nigger killers, bang, 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 38. Is the rhythm now nice and slow? Perhaps it's time to relax. Stretch index, trigger finger, and reposition. At exactly what point does self-defense become premeditated and tragic accidents calculated? Bang, 39. The number could have been divine intervention depending on interpretation, because more likely than not, these 4 murdering cops have done time on their knees praying, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. God-fearing men armed with God-killing tools. Bang. The smell of fresh blood, empty bowels, salty piss, rigor mortis. What exactly does a really dead nigga smell like? Bang. Curiosity satisfied. Amadou Diallo, may you rest in peace. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a long time since I've said these words aloud. I realize now that there is a reason for that. All right. So, Freedom and albums like it, they were a passport. Spoken word was a way in which we could work a cappella, go places without a lot of stuff, you know? And through spoken word and having this CD, I performed in the US, I performed in Canada, and I was invited to South Africa to deliver dub poetry workshops at the Center for the Book in Cape Town. I went and was in conversation with people who were there, and upon my return, I think by that time, I can't remember if I was in Montreal or Toronto, but I remember seeing this long email from the editor of a magazine called Chimurenga in South Africa, and it was this email about, you know, the black intelligentsia. He's a very intellectual, smart, black African man, and he was talking about, you know, the need for a certain level of consciousness and for black people to organize, and, you know, and I remember when I was in South Africa, some people called me a conscious sister, you know, because my work was political, so I was conscious. And I was in Montreal, and I was a conscious sister. I was like, yes, I'm conscious. Okay. But what I learned was that when you're conscious, there's also not a lot of room for you, right? Because you can be this conscious sister, but it became a way in which, again, my black femininity was attempted to be, right, packaged and contained. And so he wrote me this long email eviscerating this and eviscerating that, and, you know, all that needed to happen. And I wrote a piece called "This Is My Rant." And I'll say this, what "This Is My Rant" permitted was a conversation, and what spoken word permitted for me was a means in which to speak not only to the systems of power that uphold white supremacy, and I want to be really clear about the thing with white supremacy and the ways in which it's insidious, is that it's no longer only practiced by white people. That's what makes it really kind of difficult and sticky. Yes, it's a philosophy and an ideology and a system of power and privilege, but it is, you know, all kinds of folks. It's like patriarchy. It's not only men who practice patriarchy, right? And so these things are not like these easily contained notions that we can say, oh, well, It's simple and I can see it. And so what this also allowed me to do in this work of spoken word allowed me to speak within Black communities as well. And so this piece, I remember being like sick, literally physically sick before I performed this piece, because I was performing it in Toronto to a predominantly Black audience. And I was gonna talk about the Black intelligentsia. I was like, okay. Okay, this is my rant. Just last night I was reasoning, liming with a brethren writer poet friend, discussing how toxic North America is. And how imperative it is that we bounce, get out of here. Continually bombarded by propaganda machines, numb, the natural result of excessive North American conditioning, numb I am, close to being immune to. Politics slips so easily, a chant down Babylon 1 minute, surf the net to price my future SUV the next, complete with tan leather interior and brown tinted windows, not black, that's far too ghetto. But what's the alternative? Actually live the politics I spew in social circles? Damn. All that revolution of self-talk makes me nauseous. Conveniently conscious sister, looking for a conveniently conscious significant other so we can sit back, relax, and listen to the A-track. Unwind over a bottle of good South African red wine, make love until the sun sets again. Revolutionize the world sprawled out on plush leather couches after a delicious 5-course meal. I'm saying, I feel so inadequate. Lonely I am, lonely. With no one to invest all my love energy into, it sucks. You hear me? It sucks. I don't even know if I have the energy to talk politics, drop names, show how well read I am, be deep as I navigate my way into a whole other crew. You know, the conscious, really conscious Black crew. You know, the crew of readers, thinkers, writers that chant down Babylon with proper colonial English sophistication. The crew that differentiates between Black people and niggers. Well, shit. Well, then call me that nigga who's tired of trying to fit. That nigga raised in so much white it seeps out of her pores when she least expects it. I'm that Canadian trying to be Jamaican, African faking nigga then. Hardcore exterior chick. The one who wants her clit licked on the regular, about to go buy a vibrator type of sister. That creative type writer, singer, that sister who doesn't fit, that platinum blonde wig owning, sweet essential oil wearing, bougie, materialistic, spiritual nigga, the sister outsider, woman spirit, blazing fire, shy as hell type of sister nigga, that on the prowl saying she's dying to fuck but scared as hell when the time comes kind of sister, who can come when the loving's good. That eyebrow plucking, armpit shaving on occasion, hairy-legged sister, the one who fluctuates from style to style, from gender to gender, from sanity to other sister. So yes, it's crazy. Because this world has been ruled by misogynist energy for so long, and all the female energy is suspended on the cross, and our blood is being shed. That female energy, distorted, circumcised, manipulated, and relegated to the back so that intellectual debates about Black political change can occur, man, my womb is the fucking change. Call me that angry Black bitch sister nigga, birthing the next generation with no support or voice. Suicide. Suicide hovers on the breath in the realms of thought of all the so-called strong Black women warriors I know. Is there room in the revolution to deal with that? Send blessings. We need them. From the cold north, Naila. Oh boy. I think y'all are clapping because I said I don't shave. So what we talked about in my workshop today is that, often in spoken word we use I and we don't actually mean I, right? But our audience often thinks that it's I. That's my way of saying maybe that's not all about me. Ducking. Because I did just talk about my clit. Or somebody's body parts, not mine. Okay. And so then I was still making albums. We're making chapbooks, and I produced this album called Bloom. And this is my rant is on Bloom. And this was a special record for me because I went to South Africa. I went back and did an artist residency out there and created much of the music for it. And it allowed me to make connections, and I also did an artist residency in Toulouse, France, that allowed me to kind of talk to people in different parts of the world about what they were thinking about and how they were approaching the multiple issues that I was grappling with myself. And it led me to write this piece that's called A Gap. My second last piece, I feel like I'm making good time. I've got 5 minutes? 5 plus? Okay. Just joking. I'm not going to do a gap. I'm going to end, well, you'll just have to buy Bloom then, won't you? Oh, I should say that they're selling for $5. And I should say that this is like, these are the last runs of these. I don't expect to print more, but I brought my last box. Okay, so I'm going to do a piece that's called Psychic Trash, and I'd like to end with this piece because I think that this has long been what spoken word has been for me, what the act of writing continues to be for me, whether I'm writing a poem, a spoken word piece. I now call myself a poet. Things have changed. Or if I'm writing an article or a lecture or a TEDx talk, whatever I'm writing, I think that there's, for me at least, there's a way in which writing is a means to think and to move through and to see what I've been feeling. Okay. But we need to do this together. I need your help for the last line. The last line is I'm going to say dazzling. And then I'm going to ask you to say, we will be dazzling. Now the timing is important, so we're going to practice. All right, dazzling.
We will be dazzling.
Well, all right then, I'm excited. Okay, excellent, perfect. So I am throwing out my psychic trash. Driving it across the old Michigan line, hauling it down to the southernmost tip of South Africa, hoisting it up 49 cobblestone steps, and with eyes locked on an endless horizon, I will deposit my burdens into colliding Atlantic and Indian oceans. 'Tis time to demarcate new space. No more murky, molded, askew meditations, rotted, reeking residue. No more petty indulgences and insecurities. No more defecating in dream space. No more placating, backbiting, clamoring. No more petty indulgences, no more petty indulgences, no more petty indulgences in fears and other fits of folly. No more vortex of self-sabotage. Engaged in an impoverished, self-deprecating internal monologue laden with socialized self-hate, I'm throwing out my psychic trash. Short circuits will be rewired. Disconnects are on the mend. So I'll fear not tires running flat, nor des pannes d'essence. I'll fear not future, present, nor past. Check mirrors merely periodically. For I have dwelled in rear and side views, and I know each time I crash. And so today, I'm throwing out all my psychic trash. Some call me dusty, faded, gray. I call me understated, enduring, Arctic silver, with rust on my rockers, stone chips on my windshields, paint peeled off every panel, with a clutch that will slip when old habits make me stall. But the engine of this 1977 will roar like a brand new BMW. I'm throwing out my psychic trash. Though I don't recall myself without it, haven't said myself steady diets of acceptance, respect, and care, but I will envision the re-emergence of a cosmic tropical fall flower, rooted in the ether, petals uncurled to the world, shimmering like first frost, crystallizing moments in amethyst and royal healing hues, eyes made of prisms, tongue a lascivious luster, soul sculpted from water, diamonds spilling from my palms, dazzling. We will be dazzling. Thank you.